Hi, I'm Dr. Hani Naza, Associate Professor of Internal Medicine, Psychiatry, and Addiction Medicine. Today, we're going to explore the fascinating world of psychodynamic and developmental theories, from Freud's psychosexual stages to modern attachment and temperament theories. These remain just theories. You cannot build an evidence-based conclusions out of them, but they help you understand yourself or understand the world around you. Let's start with Freud's foundational concepts. Freud is truly the father of psychiatry and psychology despite all the critiques. Before outlining his psychosexual stages, Freud proposed several key ideas. He described the primary process thinking as the primitive, unconscious mode of thought, ruled by the pleasure principle, seeking immediate gratification without concern for reality. We see this in dreams, fantasies, and psychosis. In contrast, secondary process thinking is rational and reality oriented. It's what we use in problem solving and daily life. Freud also emphasized psychic determinism, the idea that nothing in the mind is accidental, every slip of the tongue, dream, or behavior reflects unconscious conflicts or desires. Then he divided the mind into the conscious, preconscious, and unconscious, with the unconscious acting as a reservoir of hidden wishes, fears, and drives that surface indirectly through dreams, slips, and symptoms, while the conscious is what we are aware of in the moment, like thoughts, perceptions, and the preconscious, not currently in awareness, but can be easily recalled memories, knowledge. Then he moved away from the previous description and proposed the structural model of the mind, the ID, the ego, and the superego. The id is our instinctual, pleasure seeking drive. This was the unconscious that he talked about earlier. The ego is the mediator operating on the reality principle, using defense mechanisms to manage conflict. This is a new term for the conscious. And the superego is our internalized moral compass, holding us to standards and inducing guilt when we fall short. This is a fairly new creation of Freud that he added to his theory. With this foundation, Freud introduced his famous psychosexual stages of development. He talked about 5 stages: oral stage, anal stage, phallic stage, latency stage, and genital stage. His main theory that each of these stages has a focus on pleasure and has a primary task, and that the person should resolve the task and move on to the next stage, of they will be stuck in that stage or fixated. The oral stage during the first year focuses on pleasure through the mouth. The primary task is weaning from breast or bottle, and the fixation here may lead to dependency or habits like smoking, overeating, nail biting, or sarcasm. The anal stage from ages 1 to 3 centers on toilet training and control. The task in this stage is to control bodily functions. And if the parents are very strict, that could make the person anal retentive, or in reality with obsessive compulsive personality traits. Parents who are very lenient could cause the person to become anal expulsive, messy, and rebellious. So fixations may produce compulsive orderliness or rebellious messiness. The phallic stage, from 3 to 6 years, introduces the Oedipus and Electra complexes. Oedipus complex is pretty much boys' unconscious desire for their mothers and rivalry against fathers. They may develop castration anxiety. The boy will fear that his father will punish him for these desires by castrating him. As for girls, they develop Electra complex, which is the unconscious desire for their fathers and rivalry against mothers. They may develop penis envy, which is when a girl recognizes anatomical differences and feels deprived or envious of the penis, viewing it as a symbol of power and privilege. This leads to feelings of inferiority or blame directed at the mother for not giving her a penis. Resolution occurs when the child identifies with the same-sex parent, leading to superego development. The latency stage from 6 to 12 years is when sexual urges are repressed and energy is directed toward learning and friendships. The energy is directed toward learning, socialization, hobbies, and friendships. Ego and superego strengthen. Fixation in this stage is rare, but unresolved conflicts from earlier stages may be hidden here. Finally, the genital stage, beginning in adolescence, focuses on mature relationships and balancing love and work. Healthy outcome of this stage is mature sexuality, ability to form meaningful relationships, and the fixation will lead to difficulty with adult relationships and responsibilities. Moving beyond Freud, Margaret Mahler contributed the separation-individuation theory, which we have a separate video about. In her theory, Mahler discussed how children gradually become their own person and why this process is so important for lifelong emotional health. We'll also look at what can go wrong when this process is disrupted and share practical advice for parents to support healthy emotional growth. Stage 1: Normal symbiosis from 0 to 5 months. In the earliest months of life, baby and caregiver feel like one. The infant depends completely on the caregiver for food, warmth, and comfort. This close bond lays the foundation of trust and emotional security. Stage 2: Differentiation from 5 to 10 months. Around 5 months, babies start to notice differences between mom's face versus others, their surroundings, new objects. This curiosity marks the beginning of psychological separation. The baby begins to explore, but still needs the caregiver nearby for safety. Stage 3: Practicing from 10 to 16 months. Once the baby learns to crawl and walk, they joyfully explore the world. You'll see them glance back frequently to make sure you're still there. This stage builds confidence and independence, while those check ins act as emotional refueling. Stage 4: Rapprochement, 16 to 24 months. This is one of the most challenging stages. The toddler now wants independence but fears losing closeness. They may run away happily, then rush back for comfort. They may even throw tantrums if the caregiver feels too far away or too controlling. This back and forth, sometimes called the rapprochement crisis, is normal and teaches children how to balance autonomy with connection. If this process is disrupted, it can have long term effects. Mahler believed that children who don't get consistent emotional support during this time may grow up with ambivalence about closeness, wanting connection but fearing it, poor object constancy, seeing others as all good or all bad when upset, a pattern called splitting, intense emotional storms when feeling abandoned, chronic fears of rejection and abandonment. These patterns can show up later in life as traits of borderline personality disorder, unstable relationships, mood swings, and a deep fear of being left alone. Stage 5: Object constancy from 24 to 36 months. Finally, the child learns that the caregiver still exists and still loves them, even when not physically present. This is called object constancy. It allows the child to feel secure, stay calm during brief separations, and develop more emotional stability. Object relations theory, pioneered by Melanie Klein, emphasizes the child's internalized mental representations of caregivers, or objects. Infants initially split caregivers into all good or all bad, or what she referred to as the paranoid schizoid position, but over time integrate these images into whole object representations, or the depressed position. Then Donald Winnicott introduced the idea of the transitional object, like a favorite blanket. This transitional object reminds the baby of his mother and usually developed around the first year of age and forgotten around the fifth year of age. And the concept of the good enough mother who provides emotional safety while gradually allowing frustration to foster growth. Now, growth. Now we will move to one of the most influential frameworks in psychology, Erikson's psychosocial stages of development. Erikson believed that human growth happens across the entire lifespan and that at each stage we face a core challenge or conflict that helps shape who we are. Let's walk through each of the 8 stages. Stage 1: Trust versus mistrust, infancy, in the first year of life. In the very first year of life, babies depend completely on caregivers to meet their needs. When caregivers are consistently responsive, feeding, soothing, protecting, babies develop a sense of trust. The world is safe and my needs will be met. If care is inconsistent or neglectful, mistrust may form. The world is unpredictable, and I can't count on others. Stage 2: Autonomy versus shame and doubt. Toddlerhood between 1 and 3 years of age. As toddlers begin to walk and talk, they want to do things by themselves, feed themselves, explore, say no. When caregivers encourage safe exploration, children develop autonomy and confidence. Stage 3: Initiative versus guilt. Guilt, early childhood between 3 to 6 years. Now children become more curious, imaginative, and eager to take initiative, to plan games, ask endless questions, and try new tasks. Supportive caregivers help them develop a healthy sense of purpose. If their efforts are ridiculed or punished too harshly, children may feel guilt and hesitate to take initiative. Stage 4: Industry versus inferiority. Middle childhood between 6 to 12 years, school years bring new skills and responsibilities. Learning to read, write, play sports, and cooperate with peers. When children are encouraged and praised for their efforts, they develop a sense of competence, but repeated failure or harsh criticism can lead to feelings of inferiority, the belief that they're not capable or good enough. Stage 5: Identity versus role confusion. Role confusion. Adolescents between 12 to 18 years, teenagers face the task of discovering who they are, developing values, exploring roles, forming a personal identity. When supported, they emerge with a strong sense of self and direction. Without guidance, they may experience role confusion, uncertainty about who they are or where they're going. Pretty much in this stage, the teenager should go through what Erikson called the crisis. They should think about who they are and what they are going to do in the future. If they were able to go through the crisis, they will develop their own identity. If they did not, they would develop role confusion. Children of parents who are very strict and authoritarian could develop a foreclose identity, which is very rigid. Simply, their parents told them what they are going to be. Or, on the other hand, when children and that stage are neglected or abused, this could cause identity confusion and chronic feeling of emptiness, which is a core symptom of borderline percentage of disorder. Stage 6: Intimacy versus isolation. Young adulthood between 18 to 40 years, young adults seek close, meaningful relationships, friendships, partnerships, love. Success leads to intimacy, the ability to connect deeply with others. Failure to form these connections can result in loneliness and isolation. Stage 7: Generativity versus stagnation. Middle adulthood between 40 to 65 years. In midlife, the focus often shifts to contributing to the next generation, raising children, mentoring, creating, giving back to society. When people feel productive and helpful, they experience generativity. If they feel unproductive or disconnected, they may fall into stagnation and self absorption. Stage 8: Integrity versus despair. Late adulthood, more than 65 years of age. In later life, people look back on what they have built. If they feel proud and fulfilled, they develop integrity, a sense of peace and acceptance. If they feel regret or that life was wasted, they may experience despair. Now to the attachment theory by Bowlby and Ainsworth categorized attachment styles as secure, anxious, avoidant, anxious, resistant, or disorganized, patterns that influence how we relate to others throughout life. So, 60% of children become securely attached by 2 years of age. Children are anxious in the presence of strangers, and they are distressed by the departure of their caregivers, rapidly seek their caregivers, following brief separation, and reassured by renewed contact with their caregivers. For the anxious, avoidant type, children are less anxious upon separation, do not rapidly approach their caregivers following brief separation, and make no preference for their caregivers over strangers. As for the anxious, resistant type, they become highly distressed upon separation, but have difficulty reuniting with their caregivers. For the disorganized, disoriented type, you may observe undirected, inconsolable, and highly ambivalent behavior. Temperament theory by Chess and Thomas identified easy, difficult, and slow to warm temperaments, showing that some children are biologically predisposed to be more adaptable or reactive. Later theorists deepened our understanding. Anna Freud focused on the ego's autonomous functions. Carl Jung introduced the collective unconscious and archetypes. Heinz Kohut developed self psychology, emphasizing mirroring and idealization. Harry Sullivan highlighted interpersonal relationships, paving the way for interpersonal therapy. Adolf Meyer proposed the biopsychosocial approach. Karen Horney examined the real versus ideal self. Jean Baker Miller created relational theory. Richard Lazarus and Susan Folkman developed the transactional model of stress and coping. And Suzanne Kobasa described hardiness, the personality trait that allows people to stay healthy under stress. Together, these theories create a rich framework for understanding personality, relationships, and psychopathology, and they continue to guide psychiatry and psychology today. Thank you so much for watching and learning with me today. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you never miss a new episode. Your support helps us keep making psychiatry and psychology simple, practical, and accessible for everyone. See you in the next video.